hope everyone's doing well. I really appreciate all the support I've been getting on this podcast, all the people listening. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much just for listening to it and hearing these people's stories and their conversations. I have some really exciting episodes coming up, but this week's episode is with Creator K. Creator K is a graphic designer, videographer, just an overall creative guy. You know, he has many tools in his belt when it comes to creative work, whether it's, video editing, podcasting, graphic design, making album arts, all that kind of stuff. He's a very, very creative guy, and I found him through TikTok. He has a page called Show and Tell, where he talks about, music and just showing it and putting people on to like smaller artists or people that are just like not that well known. He talks about house music, neo soul, rap, like a ton of music you usually don't see on the mainstream, but you should definitely give a listen to. He put me on to a lot of music recently, but also too, we had some great conversation before and after and during the podcast, just about creative work and how to, kind of boost up your life if you want to work in something creative. So yeah, I really hope you guys like this week's episode. Creator K was a great conversation. Really happy I got to do this, and I'm really excited about this episode. So please enjoy this episode, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace. Welcome back to the Thumbs Up Podcast. I am your host, Kyle Devine, and here today, our wonderful, wonderful guest, Creator K. He is the man that runs the show and the wonderful social media websites called Show and Tell. He is a videographer, an editor, does graphic design, just makes awesome content. I found him through TikTok. But Creator K, how are we doing today?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime. I'm doing all right. Just got done with class, so I'm just happy I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good place to be at. I miss those days, like when in college, which is going to age me, and I'm not even that old. But I loved coming home from class and just chilling with the boys, even though I know that it's a little different for you now, unfortunately. But yeah, college was fun. Yeah. I could talk about that for a while, but that might not be that interesting to people.
Maybe that's for another podcast. We'll talk about college life or something.
Yeah, and I'll sound like that person who I don't even mean to say like I was sick in college. I just liked college. No, college was fun.
I think there's like a benefit to college for everybody. Like even if like you don't like learning, I personally think going to college for like 1 year kind of forces you to like, I don't know, like see the atmosphere and also like kind of figure yourself out.
Absolutely. No, that's 100% why I enjoyed it, because I still am an introvert, but it definitely broke me out of my shell, made me realize what I like to do, what kind of people I like to surround myself with. And that was huge. And from that aspect, I encourage people to go to school. Obviously, there's reasons why it's a good reason not to go to school. But yeah, from that standpoint, it was great for my development as a human being.
Yes, 100%. I agree completely. Like this is like one of my last years of college. So I'm accepting that I'm like, this is it. But I've learned so much each year that I've been in college.
Yeah, that's dope.
100%. But going off of that, I was just wondering, so my audience probably doesn't know too much about you. So why don't you just kind of give a rundown and tell us about yourself if you can?
Yeah, for sure. I am Creator K, creator of things, my unofficial tagline, I suppose. I'm a visual artist. That's the kind of all-encompassing word that I use to describe myself. So like you said, do videography, shooting, editing, graphic design. I have a podcast that I run for Show and Tell. Show and Tell is my baby, my brainchild, my passion project, which is a platform for sharing music, connecting through music. I always do a really awful job at hitting my slogan when I talk about Show and Tell, because it's like I forget it at the worst times. Show and Tell is a platform for sharing stories and connecting through music, because sharing is caring. There, I got it. So that's kind of the place where I flex all of my skills and my passions, because I'm super into music and into sharing music, because I believe that music is not anyone's to be held onto. I think it's meant to be shared with everyone and connect over and through.
Yeah, I agree completely. How do you feel about gatekeeping?
So, what is your definition of gatekeeping exactly?
Gatekeeping to me is like, the perfect example is like the meme of like Tame Impala. Like how like, oh yeah, they're like super underground. You probably don't know anything about them, even though that they're like one of the biggest, psych rock bands in the world right now.
Yeah, no, I am of the mind that like if I like something, I will share it with someone who I think might like it too, because I want everyone to listen to the artist as much as possible, or I want as many people to listen to that artist because, I mean, there is that sense a little bit with certain artists where I'm like, it's kind of fun to be at the ground floor with certain musical artists because you feel like you're even more connected with them. And then, there's less chance of like haters to come in because it's a really organic and loyal fan base. But at the same time, it's very selfish to hold on to things like that and like not. I just don't. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like gatekeeping. It's not fun. Music is meant to be shared, like I said.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's very genuine. And also, too, like you can definitely see that like within your content that you do post, especially on TikTok and like, your top 10 lists, underrated rap album videos and like all that kind of stuff. I think it's really cool how you kind of like lay out that like platform and really show like your slogan within every video that you post.
Yeah, thank you. It's new still. I posted maybe like 2 TikToks when I was using TikTok more actively last year. Right before the beginning of quarantine, I finally caved. I'm a late adopter to new things, like new media platforms. So for the longest time, and you can find it, and I own up to it. In one of the early episodes of the Show and Tell podcast, a friend of mine, Peter Cooley, he made the song with another artist, OK Boomer, and in that episode, I was like, I'm never downloading that app. And then like 6 months later, or whatever the time was, I downloaded it and I was making TikToks regularly on my personal account, just really dumb kind of comedy sketch things. And then I was like, oh, I should make them on Show and Tell as well, because that was already going. But then I kind of stopped for a bit, and it's new. It's still new. I only started regularly posting these videos and figuring out like, oh, this is actually, there's a strategy here that I want to take on with posting on this platform. This was like, I think right after Thanksgiving. So it's still very nubile. And it's crazy because it's definitely kind of kicked off a little bit, and it's weird. It's weird, but it's really exciting too.
Yeah, I was gonna say because I've definitely noticed, and it might just be because it's my For You page, but like how I found you and stuff was like mainly through the content that you post about like rap albums. But I also know that you kind of touch on a lot of different other genres of music, whether it's your playlist on Show and Tell for Spotify or like all the other platforms, or I mean, you've made other videos as well. So what like genres do you like? What do you enjoy the most? And like, what do you like posting about the most?
So people are going to hate this answer. I like all the music that I post.
Yeah.
Because it's true. I only want to share stuff that I enjoy listening to and that I am listening to. But if I were to pick a couple, rap is definitely big. I like a lot of lyrical boom bap style, like New York City style rap. I like old school rap, which again, just like New York City boom bap rap. And then I also like what is kind of classified as future beats, which is a bit of a broad term to kind of encompass futuristic sounding house music, trap music, hip hop. Generally, it's instrumentals, but there are vocalists that are doing their thing within that genre. If I were to name a couple that people might know, like Flume, I guess you could kind of group into future beats. Like genres are a thing that aren't necessary, and people kind of, turn their head at using genres to describe music, but sometimes it's important if you're trying to put people onto new things. So I like to use that term. Sam Gellatry is another one. Chromanichi is one. So that, and then there is a genre, a style of music that I like that I don't push on Show and Tell because it doesn't fit into the brand that I'm building. But I'm a huge fan of post-hardcore, metalcore, alternative rock. Like Dance Gavin Dance is my favorite musical artist of any genre of music. And I also like Veil of Maya, and I was big into Under Oath back in the day. So I love metal as well.
That's awesome. I was gonna say that's like how I grew up, was listening to that kind of stuff. My brother's like a big fan of like old school punk, post-hardcore, metalcore. And that's what I grew up listening to. And then my dad was a 90s hip hop like fanatic. So I had both sides of the spectrum. So I was very lucky that I got both sides of that, in my opinion.
Yeah. That's, I still like, none of my family listens to the real heavy metal stuff, but I guess, I mean, back in the day, Led Zeppelin were considered like heavy metal, or
Yeah.
well, hard rock, not necessarily heavy metal. But I think growing up around Led Zeppelin, Parliament Funkadelic, Soul Live, which was a 3-piece jazz outfit, soul outfit, and then my brother making me MP3 CDs back when you could put like 120 songs on a CD, which was crazy at the time. Like that was so innovative, but it was like, and it's like seems so long ago at this point. He would put on stuff like that, but also put on like Tribe Called Quest and old school rap. And I was telling him, because I just put out a couple TikToks that were like my favorite songs of the 90s, my favorite rap songs of the 90s, favorite rap songs of the 2000s. I was telling him, I was like, I give you all the credit for putting me onto this music. And even at the time, there were songs that I didn't enjoy this would have been when I was like 12. I listen to them now and I'm like, those were on those CDs and I like them now. Like, it's crazy. It's a testament to taste changing, but also influences being almost kind of subconscious, like hearing things when you're young and then having that mold your taste. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I was gonna say, because you said A Tribe Called Quest, and that's like my dad's favorite group. So that's like listening to all that kind of stuff. And I remember I was like super young, and the two movies that were very prominent, like I remember I watched the Tribe Called Quest documentary, and then I watched, I always forget what the title is, but my brother forced me to watch this like post hardcore and like punk revival like documentary. And I remember like that's when like I fell in love with like those two sides of music.
Yeah, I haven't seen that either of those. One, obviously, because I don't know the title of it, but I haven't seen the Tribe one either.
I was gonna
And
say I'll try to figure out the
yeah,
titles of them.
please, that would be great, because it really is just moments. It's moments. It's physical moments, being in the presence of friends, hearing certain tracks that create those moments of nostalgia. So when you hear the song again, it brings you back, and it's just like, here's an example. I love Isaiah Rashad as an artist. He is super dope, very excited and impatient to an extent for his album to come out. I think it's going to come out this year. It's supposed to, but
Hopefully.
I not only did this get me into music videos, but it helped me it's just a moment that I remember. His video for Shot You Down, very random. They're playing dominoes outside, and right when the beat hits, the guy slams his fist on the table and it makes the domino fly up in like slow motion. And it's very basic. Like, looking back at it now, it's like not anything crazy or like, whoa, that's the coolest shot I've ever seen. But it affected me at that time and made me like be like, I love this artist. I love this song. Like, it doesn't matter how the song plays out after this. Like, I'm hooked. So it's really, music is just about like moments like that. And that's what I love about it.
I was gonna say, like, and you talked about like that was like a key moment for you to like realize that you wanted to try out like videography as you were
Yeah.
talking about. So like if we could we like backtrack a little bit and like kind of tell me about like the path that got you to this point of like being like a digital creator?
Yeah, for sure. It all started in whatever year I was in 11th grade. So like 2010. Yeah, I don't really know why I wanted to video edit exactly. I can't remember. Like, I can't remember the exact moment or anything like that, but I was very into playing video games. I never had a console, but I played on my computer, so it's really no difference there. And I was big into Call of Duty 2. It's one of my favorite video games of all time. I was also just into the social aspect of it. I was a part of a community that would have kind of casual tournaments where you could voice chat. And there was a guy who would take the tournament footage and put it into a montage. And I thought that was so cool. Seeing, clips edited on beat to music was such a cool thing to me that I wanted to get into it. So I learned how. I started out with Sony Vegas, which I remember when I transitioned to Premiere Pro, like being like a little baby and like not wanting to move over to Premiere Pro, but like looking back, it's such a better program. No disrespect to Sony Vegas, but from there it just spawned into a YouTube channel. I have videos where I was on camera just with a webcam and just doing commentaries, and then that just kind of blossomed into, I want to get a camera and shoot my own stuff. I want to go to school for this. I went to Plattsburgh State University in New York, and I still play soccer to this day, but I played competitively, and I joined that school partially because I wanted to play on the soccer team there. And I played for a year, played 18 minutes. So I rode the bench for most of it, which is fun to look back on. No regrets there, even though it probably sounds like I have a lot of regrets on that. But but I got cut after that year. And then it's funny, the soccer coach knew that I did video and said, hey, do you want to make the highlight videos for our team? And I was like, you're going to cut me and then ask me to make these videos for the team? You're going to make me watch the team play? But I didn't see it that way, thankfully. And he also, like, the school paid for that.
Yeah.
So I did those videos. And then there were other teams that asked me to do their videos as well. And I was like, damn, I'm really glad I got cut from the soccer team, because I'm able to start on something that's actually going to get me somewhere. And, you know, no disrespect to the guys who kept going and played through senior year. I would have loved that as well, but I wasn't going to go anywhere past that. It was way more beneficial to get started on what I could make money on, make a living on, be happy doing. And, yeah. And, you know, from there, it just continued to blossom into wanting to shoot my own creative stuff, connecting with other artists, musical artists, like, you know, watching music videos. I'll tell you, Joey Badass's 1999 and Underachiever's Herb Shuttles were two of the music videos that really made me want to get into music video directing and editing. And yeah. And then just, I don't know, from there, just, you know, you graduate, you kind of try to figure out your next steps in life. I thankfully landed a position as a content creator with Jimmy Conrad, who's a YouTuber, you know, internet personality. And I worked with him for 4 years. The role expanded from editing one video a week to editing a video every single day, being his graphic designer, his producer, his shooter whenever we were on location. And then that job came to an end recently. So I've had more time to kind of explore from there. And I'm kind of in like a little hiatus moment, like transition moment, but I have high hopes and ambitions for not only just myself as a creator, but show and tell as a whole. So yeah, it's a unique period in my life, but that's how I got here now. I feel like that probably took 25 minutes to lay out, but yeah.
No, that was great, man. No, seriously. But yeah, I mean, like, that's a really cool story, though. I mean, like, because I feel like there's a lot of people that are very successful at like doing content creation, and they have a lot of stories like you, like that one thing, like you getting cut, but having that opportunity to do the video and highlight reels, like that's a big moment and like part of your story. And I feel like that moment is the coolest moment you can see in people's stories, is like, when did it all click? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
when did it all go, all right, wow, like this was like probably one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. And I'm like grateful for it. I can't say I have that moment yet, but it's getting there.
Yeah. You don't know, you can't prepare for it. You don't know when it's going to happen. I feel like, you know, getting let go from my last job, which I have no malice towards, because, you know, it is what it is. I think that's another moment like being cut from the soccer team. I see it as that. I think, you know, it forces you to change perspectives a bit, to take a step back. And I work very much in the moment. I'm very terrible at looking ahead, even like 5 days in the future. I'm always like, what do I put out today? What's the content that I can make today? And the job that I had, which I really enjoyed doing, was very immersive. And I was always, you know, like working on that and then taking whatever time I had to work on show and tell after. Not having that forced me to just like reassess where I was at. And the same thing happened when I, you know, got cut from the soccer team. I saw myself as a student athlete, but mostly an athlete. Like I was always a soccer player. That was like my love and passion. And that's, you know, like I said, I didn't think I was going to go anywhere after college with it. I was, you know, thinking realistic in that sense, but because I think so presently, I didn't think about what next. So moments like that really forced me to, you know, just look at myself, look inward and see what the next move is. And it forces people to not be a little lazy, for lack of a better word, be proactive about, you know, making moves.
Yeah, 100%. I was gonna say, I mean, like you talked about, you know, show and tell and like all that kind of stuff. So like, what was the big deciding factor of like making this a thing?
I think it was I think it was graduating college and not really knowing what to do next, which I feel like 90% of college students go through. You study something, and even if it's something that you want to do, because there are plenty of people who study something and they're like, oh, I actually don't want to do this. And I think that's a great thing. I think, no one's ever going to figure out what they want to do. Well, it's rare when people figure out what they want to do right away. I think I figured it out pretty quickly, but I think I'm kind of an anomaly in that sense. Like I knew in high school that I wanted to do like visual art, but even then, show and tell is kind of different than like being a music video director. I mean, it's very different, but everything's kind of like, interlinked. But yeah, I was like, what do I do? What do I do next? My brother is a big influence on me, a big inspiration. We connect over music and art. He makes music, he DJs. And I remember we both, like, I wanted to do something with music, and he actually wrote up the Google Doc for the podcast, like just a music podcast. And I think I still have it, and I'm going to make sure that I save it. So I just as like a memory thing. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of went from there. I also wanted to like start a clothing line. I love to design clothes when I am given the opportunity, but that kind of faded. But show and tell stuck for a year. And for the longest time, to be specific, a year, I wanted to do the podcast. I wanted to do this brand. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do because I thought about it every single day for such a long time. And I kicked myself every time I would play video games and not work on launching the project. Mm-hmm. So that kind of told me like, yeah, you should be doing this. So get going and do it. And I finally did launch the show. And just kind of like went from there. There were plenty of like irrational obstacles that I put in front of myself of like, what if I don't get to record a show one week? That's okay. You'll work, like, you don't know if that's going to happen. So you work through it. So once I got over that stuff, that's kind of where I launched it. And like I mentioned at the beginning, it all spawns from a love for music, a love for making playlists. I used to make CDs for my friends, like my brother would make for me. And I just wanted to do something more with it because I've tried to make music. I'm not good at it. I respect the talent it takes. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. So I wanted to do something more, and this is that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. Seriously. Cause I feel the same way. Like I've definitely tried to make music before and just fell straight on my face and been like, it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of talent to make those. Or like, make those songs or beats or whatever it may be. But, you finding that like piece of like, you know what? Yeah. Like I like doing this content creation. It's okay if I can't make music, like, but I want to be involved with this. So in your eyes, like what is like your biggest goal, like with like doing this music stuff and like maybe even outside of that?
Well, I guess there's two answers to that. Both of them are probably cliche. One of them is definitely cliche, and that's just to be happy, just to kind of be happy doing what I'm doing. And this provides me with happiness, but I'd be lying if I said that I didn't want to make it kind of my living as well, because given the society that we live in, the country that we live in order to live comfortably, well, I don't know, because we could really go into depth on this, but you need to be able to afford the means to an end. So being able to like do what I love doing, which is, as I already expressed, is the goal. But if I were to put like a more tangible thing, I would just love show and tell to be an outlet that people go to get put onto new music, but also create community, because anybody can put somebody on to something new. It doesn't take, anything crazy for that to happen. But I would love to create an environment, whether it's through live events when we can get those back going, or just through something like Discord, and just create a community where people can connect with each other. And, the vessel of connection is music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree completely. I was going to say, I think that's awesome that you want to do live events, because I feel like there's so many artists now that they grow a huge fan base like online, but they don't find like a way to almost be able to do live shows or find, like the means to do it. Because I mean, it's a hard thing to, figure out, especially for somebody that has like a small following and stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I've met a lot of my friends, or not met, I've connected with a lot of my friends through music, and the ones who've like stuck around, it's because we, share similar tastes, and we are like one of my best friends from high school. I don't see much these days, but I'll always shoot him a text when I hear something from like Pro Era that's come out, and I'll send it to him because I know that he'll like it, and it keeps us connected. So it's not anything. The show and tell idea isn't anything new. I don't think. I wouldn't claim to say that it's like this crazy innovative idea, but I still think that there's no limit to these kinds of things that can bring people together and connect people.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say because like it seems like you really do stick to I would say like rap music and like hip hop influenced music. I even like I think one of the titles that I saw you put like a, like a genre almost is like neo soul you put,
Mm-hmm.
and I was gonna say it seems like you're very passionate about like kind of like jazz like inspired like rap music and like soul inspired rap music. So like where like I mean like you talked about your brother and stuff like that, but like what was the first artist that you heard that like made you go wow like this is it, like I love this?
Like when I was younger,
Yeah.
I would say Soul Live, as I mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, so my dad, if I were to give three artists that were like his favorites that he would play, Led Zeppelin / Jimi Hendrix. I'm very bad at limiting myself to numbers, so I'm about to list four, even though I said three.
It's okay.
Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, but also Soul Live, and yeah, we'll just leave it at that. We'll say Jimi Hendrix is the third one. And then my mom would listen to the Beatles, Barbra Streisand. So it was definitely, a wide range of music, but my dad would listen to Soul Live. And I took drum lessons in school from 4th grade to senior year. So even though I don't make music and it's been a while since I played drums, there is some music inclinations within me. So
Yeah.
I think that's helped with me just enjoying music because I can understand how it's made.
Mm-hmm.
But Soul Live was sick. And I don't know if they still make music today, but the album was called Doing Something, and it's just instrumental. I think there might be 4 members now, and they're definitely a lot older because they weren't like, 18-year-olds at the time. But
Yeah.
there was a drummer, a keyboardist, and a guitarist. And then I think they had like a saxophonist as their 4th member. And it was just smooth. It was just super, super cool. Just really cool music that I like to kind of just tap my drumsticks along to. And I would say that is probably the one project / artist I could peg if I had to link back to like where the jazzy side of my music taste comes from.
Mm-hmm. And then also too, you talk about like electronic music or house music, or like even you said EDM, but also too that's such a big word to use for a lot of that type of music. Where'd you fall into that? Because I feel like a lot of people when they fall into that, it's because of partying. But I also know people that fell into it. They're just like listening, or like one of their friends was like, "Hey, you got to listen to Skrillex."
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had a Skrillex phase. I had a dubstep phase. It was when everybody else had their dubstep phase
Yeah.
because Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites.
Yes.
That's what it was called, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Around when that was out. So that was probably like 2012. But my love for electronic music now, and I think EDM is actually a good term because it is so broad and it is very literal. It's like it's electronic music and it makes you dance.
Mm-hmm.
There are connotations to EDM that make it seem like it's just like that party music, that festival house, that big room house, which I'm not super into. I had my group of friends like to go to those music festivals. One at like Ultra, one of the bigger ones in New York was Camp Bisco. I wasn't super into that. I did have a deep house phase, which kind of fell in line with that. But again, it just goes back to my brother. I got on SoundCloud. I probably just wanted to listen to more music. And I asked for him to send me some accounts to follow. And he sent me Selection, which is a huge one. HW&W, which is K Tronada is on that label. So he sent me K Tronada. And just from there, that's when SoundCloud was like amazing. That's when you could just dig, and you still can dig. I still ride for SoundCloud, but I will be one to criticize them as well and hold them accountable for not totally updating their platform and being the kindest to the people who upload music to it. Yeah. But that said, still a great place to find gems. And hearing music that I couldn't even fathom, like Sam Gellatry, and hearing this like really technical music that still had rhythm to it. Because another term that can be used is IDM, which is is it intellectual dance music? I think that's what it's called. It's kind of a pretentious name, but it's basically meant to describe music that you can move to, but there's a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of intricacies and details that make you kind of like listen to music for listening's sake. Yeah. So that combination of music that can make you move, but also music that like has those details to it. I love picking out different sounds and like hearing, what the kick pattern sounds like in a song, or like how they used, what kind of bass line they used, or hi-hat pattern, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, shout out SoundCloud. It all kind of like just took off from there, 2015-ish.
Yeah. I was going to say, because no, like what you said about like SoundCloud, it's still, in my opinion, I still think it's a great platform, because not everybody has the means to post music on like to DistroKid or, all the other different distribution websites, but also too, they're absolutely terrible at a lot of things as well.
Yeah. I remember when they hadn't really done anything to their interface for a while, and then they had a big announcement. They're like, you can comment on the mobile app now. Like, sick. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah.
But like, where's the other stuff? And they have introduced some things here and there, but I just know that like it gets wonky with their like copyright strikes. Sometimes like I've seen artists get their own song copyright striked, and they're like, that's my song. What do you mean? Like, and it's not anything to do with samples either. It's just like weird. I don't know. I mean, they had the whole thing where they had to let go like half of their staff, and they were about to go under, but then Chance the Rapper had a meeting and kind of helped save them. But it didn't feel like they really took that as an opportunity to like really kind of revamp. And there is a platform that is budding, and it's decentralized. It's called Audius, and it's very similar to SoundCloud. And they're way kinder to their community. They also have a decentralized currency, which I don't really know anything about, but it's a way for people to kind of generate revenue through that. And Audius is a cool platform as well. I have been trying to use it more. Like I said, I adopt things late. So I'm still kind of go to SoundCloud when I do a lot of my digging, but Audius is another cool thing to check out for sure.
I was going to say, I'd never heard of that, so I'm happy you told me about that.
Yeah. Audius.co. Co.
Okay. Awesome. I was going to say, did you ever fall into like what you could call like the SoundCloud rapper like sound at all?
A little bit. I think I used SoundCloud more to dig for future beats and electronic dance music. But there was an instrumental hip hop. Like that's also where I found the likes of Tom Misch, who is amazing. I remember hearing, when he was just making beat tapes, but then he started to sing, and like now he's incredible. But I have found myself over the years, like I mean, it's social media. You can see the repost. So I definitely, noticed SoundCloud rap. I mean, I don't know if I can think of a specific name, but yeah, I feel like it's more rap heavy now.
Yeah.
Than it was before. Or maybe that's just because I was not as tuned in, but yeah, I mean, SoundCloud is still a good platform for rappers to pop off. I feel like a lot of blogs, and myself included, are looking there for artists who people don't know about and that they can, help push.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know a lot of artists that like still post on there. Like they might be like a little more mainstream, or like like getting a lot of recognition, but they post like a very like experimental work on SoundCloud, and like just on SoundCloud. Where I think that's like really interesting, because it gives the listeners that are like very interested in their like the stuff that they're posting on like Spotify, Apple Music, and all that stuff, a chance to see like what their other passions are, or like what they're really trying to portray in their music. Like, because obviously there's a lot of logistics, like you have friends that like run labels and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of logistics for promoting music and like the music that's out there, which I think can be kind of a hardship. And that's why so many artists now are becoming more and more independent. And it's getting way easier to be an independent artist now too. And they're getting the recognition I think all of them deserve. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And there's, the bigger artists who have been with labels who are making people more hip to what it's like working with a label, and the kind of, entrapment that can happen with certain deals, which is probably driving people to stay independent as well. I mean, whatever works for people, as long as like you know what you're getting into, that's great. But you can definitely now more than ever make your way independently. And I think, like I mentioned his name before, I think Chance the rapper kind of helped kind of set that tone a bit. I'm sure there'll be some big music heads who are like, well, there's others that you're forgetting. Like, yeah, probably. But Chance, you know, he stayed independent for a while. Joey Badass, like Pro Era is their label. They stayed independent. They didn't sign. And they continued to make their wave. And I think people like myself and TikTok, which we were talking about before the show, is huge in promotion. So, you know, if you can just get in contact with like creators on that, and you know, that helps make music blow up.
Yeah, I agree completely. And another example, which is one of my favorite rappers, is Coda the Friend.
Yeah.
Like, he kills it independently. Like, I mean, he has features from Boz, Joey Badass. He's like worked with other artists. Like, he's been to XXL. Like, I mean, he's done a lot, like just by himself, like in his room, like making that music every day.
Yeah. He was on Joe Biden's like inauguration playlist. I still didn't really, figure out what that meant exactly. Like, I don't know if the music was played at inauguration. I didn't watch inauguration, but yeah, his song was on his playlist. And I think it was because his music was featured on Insecure. Like, Issa Rae does a really good job of like putting on underground artists onto the show and also like bringing them into her label that she created as well. So yeah, no, Coda the Friend's really cool. And that's all I gotta say about that.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna say, so like, what are some artists that like a lot of people wouldn't know about right now that you've been listening to that you feel like you should promote more?
I was anticipating this question, so I wrote some down because I feel like I'm not always that great at retrieval from my memory. Like when people ask me about, you know, I just there's and it's partially because there's so much music that I listen to, but it's also because my memory just sucks. It's not great. But first I'm gonna make two biased selections because they're friends of mine, but I truly believe in their music and they're really talented. Malik Elijah is a hip hop artist out of the DMV, currently based in Mass, and we work together really closely. I'm his creative director. He dropped his debut mixtape. He's dropped music for a while now, but he dropped his debut mixtape, Free Lemonade. Really talented, has a really good voice, but can also rap really well as well. He dabbles in production, audio engineering. Really talented, super cool dude. I would also recommend William Crooks. Sorry, Will. He is crazy. I'm not even going to try to stylize his music. There are influences of hip hop. There's influences of like hyper pop. There are influences of trap, a little bit of indie as well, but he's crazy. Great producer, very, can be very aggressive with some of his tracks. His album Flowers, which came out in late in 2020, is sick. Like a lot of like really distorted production, but intentionally distorted production, kind of like what, you know, XXX Tentacion was doing and the like, and that people are hearing more and more nowadays with like Charlie XCX and etc. So he's dope. And then I just got put onto this artist. I was on TikTok live and I'm using that to take people's recommendations to put in playlists. So I'm stealing people's recommendations on that. I got a pull from everywhere, but I will give full credit to them. That said, I don't remember the person's name exactly, but there's this artist out of Coventry in the UK, Pa Salou. I don't know if I don't think it's not grime, but it's incredibly hard rap. And I only heard about him 2 days ago, and I'm like, I haven't had an artist that I've been super excited about in a while to listen to more and more. The last one I remember heavily was Grip, who's a Atlanta-based rapper. His album Snubnose is crazy, like crazy production, goes super hard. His bars are really lyrical, flows great. But this Pa Salou is sick. And it's funny because when I was watching some YouTube videos yesterday, he was just on the Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon like a week ago. which is really weird, like
Yeah.
very weird, like universe play that just happened. Like I was looking him up and I was like, holy shit, he's on Jimmy Fallon. So, I mean, he's not super underground, like, but he was new to me. And then the last artist I'll recommend before I stop inundating people with recommendations, I have to do a good job of limiting myself, is one of my number ones, Choker. I don't know. Have you ever heard of Choker before?
No.
Choker is amazing. Choker is also one of those albums that really kind of changed my perspective on music, or at least the way that I listen to music, because I'm not always great about listening to full albums.
Mm-hmm.
My attention span just kind of jumps around. And I think just the fact that I'm trying to just find as much music as possible keeps me from listening to full projects. But I listened to his full project, Honey Bloom,
Mm-hmm.
and it's incredible. Vocal tone sounds a little bit similar to Frank Ocean. It's kind of a disservice is not a great word, but for lack of a better one, it's a little bit of a disservice just to boil his, music down to like sounding like Frank Ocean's, because it has a little bit of that, but it's much more like cosmic, experimental, kind of indie. He really changes up the way the music sounds, even within a track. Just the rhythms and, just the energy. And Honey Bloom was just, I listened to it while I run. It's just amazing. The way I described it was the first thing that I shared on the Show and Tell podcast, because the second part of the show is like show and tell. You bring something to share.
Yeah.
And I shared this album, and the way I described it was like, a lot of it is you're floating through space with your tether cord cut, like you've just been cut and you're floating like with no help around, but you're okay with it,
Yeah.
And that just kind of like describes it best for me. So Choker's big. He played at Camp Flog Gnaw, so that got him some more recognition, like super talented person. Petrol Bliss off of he did this kind of like 3 EP drop a year or so ago that was really cool, and Choker's amazing. I love Choker so much. I saw him live. The hat that I'm wearing right now is like one of his merch things, and he signed it, and he's just like a normal. It's funny, like we see like celebrities as these like kind of like demigods, but then you meet them or see him in person, you're like, oh, this is just a normal person. And he truly was. Like, he just hung out at the merch table after and just took pictures with people and just chatted. He's such a cool person.
That's awesome.
I'm fanboying hard. And I'm not mad about it. I have no shame.
Yeah, I was about to say you're standing real hard right now.
Yeah.
But no, I personally think it's really cool when people are that dedicated to somebody that they really enjoy. Like, I'm a huge, huge, huge fan. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but Nothing Nowhere. He's an alternative like rock artist, and he has like a lot of hip hop influence in his music as well.
Yeah. So the name sounds familiar because I listened to the last episode. So I have been meaning to check out that artist and the other artist who starts with Savage.
Oh, Savage Gasp.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that I'm making notes on to go check out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's how I found the last episode's interviewee. Andrew Cram, like, he runs that whole version 3, and like he took them on tour, and I've been listening to those guys for like 3-4 years now. So that's how I got connected to him and like started listening to his podcast. It's because he started interviewing those guys.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but he's a great guy. A lot of those artists are really talented and they're very experimental, especially Savage Gasp. Nothing Nowhere's whole entire album, he has one coming out, I think it's February 13th, called Trauma Factory, and the whole thing's going to be experimental. So I'm really excited to hear it. But it's like weird to finally see like an alternative rock artist like mix hip hop and like my two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
Like all at once, and it's like very cool. And I love that genre of music. So
yeah, same here. I think another artist who did that. Are you familiar with Kenny Mason?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think he did. That was one of my favorite albums from last year, Angelic Hood Rat. I think he did a really good job of kind of, especially on Metal Wings, that the melody in the instrumental is a metal riff. Like it's a guitar playing a metal riff, and then the hook of it is like pop punk, which is really cool. But then he just like raps just as well as he can sing. Like, he's a really, really talented person. So I definitely like that kind of energy in music when, anyone can just kind of mesh two sounds or even more together. And that's what I think Choker does really well, is, you know, meshing like rap and hip hop, but also R&B and pop music. And it's quite the vibe.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I agree completely. It sounds like he's a vibe. Yeah, I mean, like, I'd really love if you could send me like a recommendation list of some of these guys that you've talked about and whatnot, because I love finding new music and listening to new guys. And Choker sounds like a type of guy that I definitely want to invest some time to listen to. 100%.
Yeah, I think anybody who listens, who, you know, is into experimental but not too far from home sounding music, especially within like the kind of R&B hip hop genre, would enjoy Choker. And and I mean, like, yeah, I'll send you some links. People heard what I said, but they can also, I don't know if any of that stuff is in any of our playlists at the moment, but at any given day they will be. So stuff like that are in the playlist that we curate too.
Yeah. I was gonna say too, because you've said a lot about like is there other guys that like work with you on Show and Tell?
So fun fact, no, but
Okay.
it feels weird on social media to say I when it's a brand account.
Yeah,
I know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've come across this obstacle with TikTok more because I am on camera, so it is me. So I've just kind of been trying to find the balance between when to use we and when to use I. There are like, I use we because I can't claim that I've discovered all of the artists that I like put people onto.
Yeah.
People like my brother puts me onto a lot of music. The people in the Show and Tell Discord put me onto music. Other friends put me onto music. People in the TikTok comments put me onto music. So I feel like it does make it more of a we thing. And I do have ambitions of, you know, not only just making more content that involves other people, but, you know, hopefully expanding it to a point where I don't have to do literally everything, because I would love to, you know, flex elsewhere within the brand or whatever. But yeah, it is just me. But I like to kind of trick people into thinking that sometimes it's more than just one person.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. No, I totally get what you mean by that. Because honestly, like, there's other people that help with this podcast and stuff like that. That's why I try my best to not always like flex almost that it's just me, because it's not. There's a lot of people and people that influence me to make this podcast every day. So yeah, 100%.
For sure.
But I was going to say, you talked about hyperpop a little bit. I was going to say, how do you feel about that genre and like kind of like the uprising of it almost?
So I'm not super into it. And before I go any further, even though I didn't listen to her music too often, I feel like I have to pay respects. R.I.P. Sophie.
Yes.
Because I know that she influenced a lot of friends of mine, peers who make music, and that's a very tragic loss and big influence in growing the hyperpop community. So I haven't listened to too much. Like I said, my friend and, you know, homie music creator guy, William Crooks, definitely has some influences of hyperpop in his music from time to time. There are other people within the kind of community that he's involved in and that he's introduced me to. Not only is he a great musician, but he has been a day one with Show and Tell. Like, just not to go off on a complete tangent, but we went to a show in Brooklyn and he was just like introducing me to people and telling me like, oh, this guy does this thing called Show and Tell, without even me like saying, hey, tell them about it. And I would never do that. But he like is a very, very loyal and cool person. He's not the only one, but I am not totally drawn into hyperpop too much. There are artists though that I like. There is the one of the more popular Sophie songs that I think is really cool. There's some Charlie XCX that I don't mind listening to. There's a producer who produces for Charlie XCX and makes his own music as well, Umru, who is really talented. And I definitely respect that kind of music because, like I said, there's intricacies and details to it that I wouldn't know how to recreate if I had a DAW in front of me, but I appreciate, like, without knowing how, like, what it takes to make that kind of music and be that creative with it. So yeah, I guess that's kind of where I stand with it. I don't really listen to it too much, but you know, there are artists who have a little bit of poppiness to them that, you know, kind of ties into hyperpop that I enjoy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I'm surprised that you're not into it as much just because you have like a background of liking like EDM and like electronic and like how big of an influence that is on hyperpop. Especially, I mean, like some artists, it's not as much and it's more like pop driven, but there's a
Mhm.
lot of artists that are like, they work with like producers that are like originally like touring all over the world, like DJs and stuff like that, and they produce these beats for them. A perfect example is Eric DOA. His producer that makes all of his stuff, he's like a touring DJ, but he makes all of his beats for him. So I don't
Mm.
know. I'm just surprised to hear that, but no, I totally get it. It's a
Yeah.
very abstract genre of music that has like became a huge thing in the past like couple of months. I would say in the last 6 months. So
Right.
yeah, it's gonna take a while. I think people to like fully like adjust to it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, like, there's 100 Gex who I don't really listen to. I just can't totally get into them. But like I said, I mean that with the utmost respect because I think what they are making is incredible. It's just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's like one end of the hyperpop spectrum because you could also go to another side that you could, you know, I don't want to speak for the artists and classify their music for them, but there's an artist who goes, like I said, with Will, and there's an artist who goes by the name of Knapsack who can kind of reach the throes of hyperpop. And
Yeah.
Underscores is another producer artist who is really talented, and I like their music. And there's other I guess when it has a little bit more rhythm to it,
Mm-hmm.
and is not kind of like really distorted all the time, I'm more drawn to it. I mean, it's kind of contradictory because I really like Dance Gavin Dance and they're very car crashy with their rough vocals at times, but
Yeah.
they do pull you back out with some like soothing pop vocals and like kind of funky riffs. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's kind of where I stand on that.
Okay. Yeah, no, I agree completely. I was gonna say it's been recent that I've like kind of fallen into like the hyper pop world, you could say almost, and like kind of seeing how that community is growing. I majority of the time I like try my best. I see how communities are like when I start following artists on Twitter, especially, and seeing like the communities behind that because I feel like Twitter is becoming, it's not like a huge platform as it was once, but it is still like a very fitting for a lot of communities, like within music, I would say.
Yeah, it's a big fan base like platform I've noticed because I
Mhm.
think the community that the hyperpop community and kind of the electronic SoundCloud community is very supportive of each other on Twitter, and it's really admirable because everybody rides for each other. You know, if Anthony Fantano tweets out, "What should I be listening to?" Someone will tweet, for example, stream William Crooks, and then you'll see like 10 people say the exact same thing, like stream William Crooks. Like everybody rides for each other there, and it's really cool. It's very supportive, very inclusive community, and from what I've seen at least, and it's I live on the internet so pretty
Yeah,
much.
me
So
and you both, man. Me and you
yeah,
both.
so yeah, I think that's Twitter has kind of turned into like kind of like a place where like you just interact with your fans, but can also still be like kind of like a brain dump because tweets are still so fleeting.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's very saturated with random, like
Yeah,
basic tweets, or you could
yeah,
say.
yeah. Will tweets really random shit, but knowing who he is, it's very funny to me.
Yeah.
But it is very random, very random.
I was gonna say that sometimes that's the best thing, sometimes that's the worst thing.
Yeah, I've been there.
100%.
I've tweeted random. Most of my random stuff that I tweet gets absolutely no traction, but that's not that's not the point. I just need a place to like be weird for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say if you go back on my Twitter from like when I was in like seventh grade when I started it, you'll find some stuff of like me being like, I'm going to Starbucks today. Like,
Yeah,
why? Why did I say that?
right.
Or go on my Facebook when I was
Yeah,
13 and I said Justin Timberlake's the swaggiest person alive.
yeah, but yeah, that's you're sharing your opinion. My Facebook is from back in the day. It sucks. I used to like look at the what was it called? Like they give you the notification where you could look back at your past statuses,
Oh,
every
I
single
forget
day.
what it's
Like this is what
called.
you posted. This is what you
Yeah.
posted 6 years ago. And I stopped doing that. One, because like once you see him once, like you don't need to see him again. But two, it was awful. I was such a I don't people would call me a simp, I would say, back in high school because I was tweeting like Drake lyrics that were like basically like please, I need a girlfriend so bad right now.
Yeah,
Tweet
yeah.
these lyrics. And yeah, Facebook is kind of a dark historical place for me. It's funny. It's nice because you can look at yourself now and be like, God, thank God I'm not like that anymore.
Yeah.
But
100%.
it is like not the opposite of a nostalgia trip. It's just cringy.
Yeah. No, trust me, I agree completely. Sometimes I don't want to see any of that or what I was like when I was that
Right.
young.
Yeah.
100%. Um, so something I wanted to ask you, as somebody that is getting into more digital creation, but also too, just kind of wanting to ask you, like, what tips, tricks, for somebody that's starting up, wanting to learn how to do more digital media based work, what tips would you give them, or like, what would you say, like, the first step should be?
That is a good question. I mean, in terms of just learning, I learned most of what I know, a very large portion of what I know through what is known as YouTube University and Google University. I mean, like, I literally, when people ask me, like, how do I do this? I don't tell them to Google it, but if they're like, hey, how did you learn how to do video editing? I would say, well, I obviously became familiar with the program with those basic tutorials. That's nothing crazy. And what I'm about to say isn't crazy either. I would say, like, I want to learn how to do this. So I would Google how to do this, and then I would watch a tutorial. And from there, it kind of helped me develop my style, because I would either learn how to do it or I wouldn't learn how to do it. I would still be confused, but I would figure out a way to work around it. And figuring out workarounds, working with weakness, not having certain things, but figuring out how to make it as close as possible or doing it differently, is how one develops their style and figures out how they like to operate, what kind of stuff they like to make. I mean, I still don't have a Steadicam or any sort of Steadicam to this day, but I just learned how to, like, hold a camera really still just by doing it over and over. And and that's one tip. And then in terms of just, like, breaking into the scene, quote unquote, and just working with other people, I remember I used to just Twitter search video editor and just hit people up on DMs and just kind of be proactive about just, like, reaching out and just being friends with people. That's the most authentic way you can go about it, is just hitting people up that you enjoy. And, hopefully, maybe you can see that there's an in there, and just say, like, I really like your work. And not even plugging yourself at that point. Maybe you can, but just making connections is huge. Because not only does it help you, obtain gigs in the future with stuff that you want to work on, but also just making friends help friends put people on. I mean, I know that when I am potentially and hopefully in a position to expand and bring people into work on show and tell with me, or whatever it is, maybe show and tell stops tomorrow, whatever it is that I'm working on. I mean, I'm always going to think of my friends first, because you know that you can trust them, and you know what they're all about. So I guess those are two tips I would give. I also don't know anything at all. That's one of my mottos, is I don't know anything, but I do have ideas, because there's no right way of doing things. There is your way of doing things.
Yeah, 100%, man. No, I love that. No, that's seriously great. I think a lot of people should look at it like that, is like, I have ideas, but that doesn't mean I'm an expert.
Yeah, I straight up don't know shit. I'd like, and honestly, it to be vulnerable for a minute, it does make me insecure. Like, I can be insecure sometimes, because people are, it's like, I don't know if I can do this because I don't know, but that's something I get over. But it's true. Like, I know what I know, and I can figure out ways to work around what I don't know, or work with things that I don't have. And that's where the ideas come from. But, and I love to share what I do know as well. Because even though I say I don't know anything, I know, I'd like to think I know some stuff.
Yeah. I would say you know how to do a lot of things, in my opinion.
Thank you for the validation.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially seeing your promo video for your work and stuff like that,
Yeah.
on Instagram and, like, on TikTok and stuff like that. Dude, I was cracking up. I thought that video was awesome.
Thank you. It was fun to make. I made a graphics pack video. Like, I just made a bunch of textures and stuff and sold it for like $4. It's free now if you guys want to go to my website and you're a graphic designer. But I made, like, a little promo for that. And same energy with this other video, because, like I said, I'm open for work. I'm looking for opportunities and gigs. And so I made that. and it was fun as hell to make. Just shot it in this room, and that's the only way I really know how to express myself. If anyone's watching that, I will say I can be serious. I can be serious, because that video is just like one big piss take, kind of, until you get to the montage where I actually like demonstrate my work. But
yeah, 100%. But no, dude, I thought it really showed. I don't know. I think it showed your creativity and your longevity with the work that you have.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. But I always ask this last question for the podcast after we kind of wrap up things, or before we wrap up things, I'm sorry. But I always ask who, or like out of 3, who are your favorite artists of all time?
Okay. Dance Gavin Dance is number 1. To sound dramatic, they like saved my life. I mean, I was never, thankfully, in a position where I was really deep in like depressions, and I do suffer from stuff like that, just like a lot of other people. And I will take this opportunity to say, talk to somebody if you're not feeling great. Take deep breaths, stretch, drink water, all of that good stuff. And listen to good music. And Dance Gavin Dance is who I listen to. And just I have 2 tattoos that are Dance Gavin Dance based, because they've affected my life so much. I love them. I would say, honestly, it's tough because this could change. That one won't change tomorrow, but the other 2 might. I think I would say Choker as well. I think he really changed, like I said, the way I listen to music, and had a huge impact on me. And I almost went on another tangent standing him, but I will keep myself from doing that again.
You're okay, man. Listen, we're all here for it. We're all listening. We all want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want you to have to upload a 3-hour long podcast though. So I guess the third one, put on the spot, Tyler the Creator or Kendrick Lamar. I probably both of.
We can keep a top 4.
Please, thank you.
Yeah,
because I suck with, like I said, limiting myself. Because Kendrick's Good Kid, Mad City always teleports me back to my freshman year dorm room, but then like Tyler the Creator teleports me back to like senior year of high school with Goblin and Bastard. So yeah, well, I'll say those 2.
Okay, dope, man. All right, well, Creator K, if you'd like to shout out your social medias and where people can find you.
Yes, thank you. At Let's Show and Tell. It's not called Let's Show and Tell, just as a disclaimer. Pretty much everyone calls it that because I don't have the handle Show and Tell. But yes, Instagram and Twitter at Let's Show and Tell. If you go to the Instagram, we have a link tree in our bio that has everything else. It has our Spotify playlist. We got 8 of them. We have a podcast, which is currently on pause for the time being, but it's coming back soon. And our TikTok's in there too. We have a Discord. Everything's at that link. And if you want to follow me, I'm at creator_K on Instagram and creator_K on Twitter. I don't know why I wasn't consistent with that, but that's just how it is. So you can follow me there. And yeah, that's about it. That's me.
All right. Well, Creator K, thank you so much for being on this podcast, man. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's fun to be in the interviewee chair from time to time.
No, I agree. I love interviewing people and hearing their stories, and I really enjoyed listening to yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course, man. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast. This was Thumbs Up Podcast. Peace. And that's the end of the podcast. I really hope you guys liked that conversation I had with Creator K. It was awesome. I loved learning about his story and like how he, came up with the Show and Tell page and the story behind that, and his music taste and all that kind of stuff. If you're somebody that's creative, I feel like we can all kind of relate to this guy. Creator K, he just embodies creativity in my opinion. But like I said, I really hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I really loved it and learned a lot from it. But also, go follow Creator K. Go follow his Instagram. Go follow Show and Tell on Instagram, TikTok. Just go support this guy. He does a lot of cool stuff, and it seems like he's gonna have like a promising future in this creative world. So yeah, please go follow him. I'm gonna put all of his if you're listening to this on YouTube, I'm gonna put all of his his social media stuff in the description and stuff like that. But also too, if you can, please go review this podcast. It really helps me out. But also too, go follow the Thumbs Up Podcast Instagram at thumbs up pod, and then also go follow me if you'd like for updates and like different things like that at Kyle_nice_. I would really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that people are listening to it. Like I know like I'm not getting like, Joe Rogan numbers, but even just getting one listener makes me really happy to see people are willing to listen to this stuff and hear these people's stories. So yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Thumbs Up Podcast, and I hope you have a great day. Peace.